how did pain solve that transformation that you went through?
I think pain is critical. Pain is a critical ingredient. I think pain should be ingrained in the soil.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think pain builds tolerance.
Yeah.
It builds your capacity or bandwidth to deal with a multitude of things in a personal capacity or even in a professional capacity. I think a lot of my professional work now has to do with dealing with a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
I think you get more no's than you will ever get yeses.
Hello, guys, and welcome to the Just to Kick It is a Blessing podcast. Welcome to the podcast where it's all about time, where we teach, inspire, motivate, and entertain through the art of storytelling. Today is another special episode, and I have a special guest in studio with me. So without further ado, I will let him introduce himself. Welcome.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Khalhani Sichangi, an entrepreneur, an investor. I've called myself quite recently the builder of Africa's future, and I'm on a journey to being a higher man. Yeah.
I think even before we get to why you've recently called yourself the builder of Africa's future, tell us about your name. It's a very interesting and unique name. It's not a name that you find a lot of people with.
Yeah, I think Khalhani is a name that has Egyptian roots. It means destined to lead.
Wow.
It's a name that has been with me for a while. And typically, I live my life in the best way to try and embody it.
Okay.
Leading in different areas or spaces in my life. And sometimes being a leader is just picking up tools and getting to work. It doesn't necessarily have to be glorified in the ways that we've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And are you Kenyan? I think that's the next question to ask.
I am fully Kenyan.
Yeah.
Sometimes these podcast things, but I'm fully Kenyan.
Yeah. Okay. From which part? You don't want to tell us?
I'm fully Kenyan. Let's avoid tribalism.
Okay. It's just good to know. Yeah, but first of all, thank you so much for gracing the invite. I know we were meant to do this last week, but I ran into a mishap.
Yeah.
And it was so nice that you actually quickly put that past us and, had the podcast this week. So I really appreciate that.
Anytime.
Yeah. So even before we get into who you are and what you're building and everything that you're doing, you recently dropped something that was quite amazing. It was great content. What was that about?
That was day 0. I believe there are very many days in my future that I'll be building Africa's future. Very many days to come in which I'll be building Africa's future.
Yeah.
And I think that was me just putting it out there into the world that I'm on this mission, or this is what I've chosen to dedicate my life to.
Yeah.
I think at the end of it, it will be seen as an introduction to a life of improving the lives of others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What had you called it actually? What was it called?
It's called KAL-EL, which is a combination of Khalhani and Superman on his home planet is called Krypton.
Yes.
I think every man is still, to a certain extent, a boy at heart. I think that was just my way of expressing it.
Yeah.
So Superman on his home planet, on Krypton, is called KAL-EL. It's what his mother would refer to him as, or what his peers would refer to him as. But being from another planet, refer to him as Superman. So what does that context look like in this new endeavor I recently have? I think it's just a bit of nakedness, as this is who I truly am and this is what I'm doing. Yeah.
In such a name, there's so much meaning and everything,
Yeah.
And I always tell people there's so much power in names.
Yeah.
I think for me also, I just want to know is, why do you feel called to that position, to build Africa's future?
I think I've been very blessed and I've been very privileged.
Or even before, actually, let's get there. Let's start. So where did you graduate from, or where did you go to school?
So typically I went to school in Kenya, finished my high school in the United Kingdom, went to the University of Manchester, studied philosophy, politics and economics, then went to the EU Business School and did international business and enterprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then after that, what, you came back to? You came back home?
Yeah, I came back home and after that I've just been an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur even before going to university. So
Okay. What was your first business like?
my first business in in an informal way was actually baking. I used to bake bread, baking, washing cars, the typical things that young teenagers do. I think I was 12, 13 when I began selling bread.
Yeah.
It was not much of a real business because the inputs were provided by the household, the flour, the sugar, the egg. I still used to be paid.
Yeah.
I think that addiction to putting money away in a piggy bank or whatever really set me off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then so you came back.
Yeah.
And you've been an entrepreneur. So when you came back, what was the first venture you started like?
I've had the first one actually I did was printing hoodies. I think that was when Summer 16 was big. So Drake had some revenge merchandise. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
And there's no one who could get revenge merchandise on this side of the world. At that time, it was such a foreign concept. How do you even order something for it to come from America and find you here?
Yeah.
So I had a guy in town and I just told him, yo, this is how we'll play this thing.
Yeah.
So we knocked off Drake's merchandise. And then from there was the rise of, let's say, entertainment businesses took or piqued my interest. So the time Malik Berry was coming to the country, Mr. Easy was coming to the country. At the point at which I was like, okay, I want to do this thing. I wasn't quite sure how to do the thing. So we just started by doing it in the backyard. I mean, when my folks were away, we used to make posters. I think one of my friends had graphic design skills.
Yeah.
Another one of my friends had a large following on social media.
Yeah.
I had a backyard. We made magic. Yeah.
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 So then after that, what was the next venture?
So after starting in entertainment, I think there was a large craze around the financial markets. I dabbled a bit in that and I didn't see any way for me, or it wasn't making much sense to me how I could really grow that business.
Yeah.
So I stepped out of it. But as of now, I'm in multiple spaces. I'm in agriculture, I'm in tech. I think I've had more businesses that have been unsuccessful than businesses that have been successful. So if I take you on chronological order, there are probably about 30 or 40 businesses. Right now, like my BRS, like the business registration service, the online portal, it's like I have 3 pages of company names.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
What has actually that journey of unsuccessful businesses taught you? Especially as a young person to try so many things at such a young age.
I think one is there's value or there's virtue in trying. And two, it has taught me, or the biggest lesson it has taught me is to take it serious. I think once you try your hand in multiple things, because there's always this fantasy that I think I used to have. It's as simple as, if I wanted it to work one day, tomorrow I can wake up and make it work. There's this business idea I'm sitting on that's so certain. All it takes for me is to wake up and do it. But you realize once you start doing it, it isn't that simple.
Yeah.
So the value of taking it seriously and throwing yourself fully into it.
With some of those businesses, when you started them, have you ever been someone who's scared to fail? Because I know a lot of people reach out to me and be like, yo, we have this idea or we have this, but we're scared we'll fail.
Yeah.
So have you ever been scared to fail?
Fear of failure is something that's very real. I've been scared to fail in my past, but it's something that I think you either get used to or you get acclimatized to. I think I saw an interesting statistic with Rafael Nadal the other day saying even top tennis players only make 51% of their shots despite winning like 80% of the games. And for me, it's a similar mentality. It's the more shots you get up, the more likely you are to succeed.
Yeah.
And also the better you get at shooting, so the higher your success rate goes. But winning straight off the bat, I don't think there's such a thing in this life.
No, yeah. I actually saw that same statistic and I was actually quite amazed at it. And I'm like, yeah. And even I think the other day someone was saying, of course, the more shots you take, the more that you're likely to make.
Yeah.
If someone came here and had only 10 shots, even if they made 10, that's good. But if someone did 100, they have a chance of making 20.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like, the more shots you try to make. In school, do you think, how was your school life? Because I know for a lot of A-B students, they're scared of failure.
I think my school life was similar to the fantasy in which I just described, in that I had capacity to be a high achiever or top performer, but for I think various reasons, at some points I never took school as serious as I did. So, for example, when I was in early high school, I think I flunked year 9, thoroughly flunked year 10, but then I finished, I think, with about high B average by the end of year 11.
Yeah.
But it's because in year 9 and year 10, I just really never took it seriously. I think the same goes when I was doing my high school in the UK. I was top of my class, and my school was full of high achievers or top performers. I had, I think, a 94% average. I have to see. I have to go and check, but even at the University of Manchester, philosophy, politics, and economics is one of the hardest courses to get into the UK. So I did quite well. I think I was intelligent, but I just never. Let me say I was a rebel. I don't think my failure was a display of intelligence or lack of it. It was just pure full-on rebellion.
Okay. I think it's because when you see and you look at it, like a lot of like A-B students, they're scared to fail.
Yeah.
Because you sit there in front of a paper, you're really scared to fail, so you don't try. In fact, I think there was a statistic that was dropped the other day, and it was like a lot of these companies that we see are actually started by C students, other than right now when the really smart guys have really changed that. But previously, there's a lot of the C, D students who are not scared to try.
I also think, and I would probably be a very good example of this because I lived it. I don't think school grades are accurate predictor of intelligence. You can find very many people who are intelligent who have below average grades, or people who are above average intelligence, because there's also an effort calculation that goes into it. This person could be ridiculously intelligent, but they just really don't want to do what you're telling them to do. So you find I was a C student majority of my school life. However, when I did put myself behind it, I became a top performer.
Yeah. So you studied philosophy?
Politics and economics.
Politics and economics. So studying that, what made you decide to come back and be an entrepreneur?
By the time I was even choosing to study philosophy, politics, and economics, it was a direct. At that point, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur even before choosing to study philosophy, politics, and economics. But I think I began to have a love for knowledge and information. I thought that was something that was broad enough, because similar to how I deal in my enterprise, I typically get bored of something very quickly. So I knew if I went and studied one specialty, I was not going to get through it. I still didn't get through it.
Yeah.
But
Wait, so you dropped out?
Yeah, I dropped out. I mean, but it was because for me it was not very let me say mentally stimulating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you drop out?
Majorly, one, probably I'd say misdirection. I wouldn't advise anyone to drop out of school, because that's irresponsible. However, I think at the time I had witnessed early success, which was mediocre success. If I look at it right now, there's no reason for me to be celebrating.
Yeah.
But I think I'd say I felt like I knew something that others didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I did, but not to the degree of dropping out of school.
Yeah.
I knew, but not that much.
Yeah.
So I left. I said, this thing is not for me. I put it to the side. Eventually, I went back later to study international business and enterprise. So yeah, I think economics has the fundamentals of business. There's macro and micro. So that's economics on government scale and economics on a enterprise scale.
Yeah.
I think there's politics in every facet of our lives. I think in our houses there's politics, in our county governments there's politics. Everywhere. In our friendships there's politics, in our relationships, in our office there's politics. So there's politics everywhere.
Yeah.
And philosophy was just my capacity to reason and think. So on my part, I always found philosophy quite interesting. I think the likes of Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Marcus Aurelius, and I think Stoicism, the school of philosophy that has become quite popular recently. I think mine was just an early, and I've been early to majority of the spaces. I think even in university, I was in university early.
Yeah.
So I was just early to the philosophy space. than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This early success of yours that motivated you or that pushed you to drop out, what was it?
I think that was I was in the development stages of being an entrepreneur. So I began seeing how I could package other things and create value for others. So I made quite a bit of money, and I said, "Ain't no way I'm going to school with this cash." I said, "Ain't no way I'm going to school with this cash. I think I'm making more than my lecturer." So I said, on my part, let me take a bow. I think this is my time to exit. But I was not able to make it consistently, and that's where the fix came in. So yes, I made more than my lecturer, but I think my lecturer was making consistently, so the income was much higher.
Yeah.
So I saw that check, as I've said, I'm out of here.
Yeah. So then now, how did actually that conversation with your parents go? Ama, you just dropped out?
I think especially because I was early to school, my parents were quite welcoming to my suggestions. But it's also because my suggestions weren't 100% honest. I told them I'm going to do this online thing and this is how it's going to work out. 65, probably 70% of what I was saying was not true. But and probably at the time I was saying it, I did have the intention to fulfill. But when it came to action and execution, I actually probably only did 30-40% of what I said I was going to do. Yeah. So they were like, okay, you seem like you have a plan, you know what you're saying. I mean, try it out. I think my parents have also been the type of parents for try, fail, fall, start again, fail again, succeed in this, do more of what's succeeding. If you want to leave that thing that's succeeding to try something else, I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to need the necessary tools and equipment to live your life. So go in and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then now actually, so back to, even actually before we get back to the business story and everything, you recently went through major transformation.
Yeah.
Why was that? Tell us about that.
I wouldn't want to say I lost my way because I think it was a critical part of the way. But a major in this process of discovery, I think it's important not only to see the good side of things, but to see the bad side of things. So on my part, I went on an adventure in, let me say, a lot of spaces, and I entered a lot of spaces to see what they look like.
Yeah.
I think a core part of my business being in entertainment, you're exposed to a lot quite early. So I saw what that looked like, and I was like, in the bottom of my heart, I genuinely did not believe that was a life that was cut out for me. I believe I was made for more, made for higher, made to achieve much better. So it became a thing. And if I continue down this road, I've seen where it goes. I no longer. I think in life you can look behind multiple curtains and see what they have. So I looked behind curtain 1, curtain 2, curtain 3. And I said I don't think that curtain I was looking behind was the one for me. And I chose to close it and go and pursue other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did it, feel letting go of that part of you? Was it easy? Was it hard?
Some parts of it were easy, some parts of it were hard, but with everything, letting go is especially when you're going to unfamiliar terrain. There's the fear of failure that comes with it, and failure in the context of, if I leave my parting friends to go and be an entrepreneur and I fail at being an entrepreneur, then my parting friends were right. It's like, now you just missed the party.
Yeah.
So it's is the path I'm going to take going to lead me to the success I believe it will or won't it?
Yeah.
And I think that becomes where the discomfort comes. There's this life I know so well.
Yeah.
Am I going to leave this life behind? I'm already a rock star in this life.
Yeah.
So am I going to leave this rock star life behind and go and pursue something else where I'm starting as an underdog?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it makes sense. When you look back, do you want to ever go back?
I think I also explored the limits of what that looks like. I don't think that there's much more to quote unquote achieve in that regard.
Yeah.
I've experienced. I am an advocate for balance, or let me not say balance. I think as humans, we are born to fully explore all possibilities that exist. So I have thoroughly explored the that part of life, and I don't think there's much more for it to offer me. I think there's also a ceiling on how much fun potentially you can have. Yeah.
I like that. And like, even for me, when I come here, I tell people, like, have your fun.
Yeah.
It's good to have your fun when you're young. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Have your crazy nights, But like what you said is, sometimes for some people, they reach as a ceiling.
Yeah.
And that now ceiling determines the next stage of your life,
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of those transformations that you took to be the guy seated here today,
I'd probably break it down into transformative phases. I think one was actively deciding I no longer want to appear in the spaces in which I was in before. And it'd be similar to anyone changing from one thing to another. So if I was an athlete and I now want to be an entrepreneur, I stop appearing in athlete spaces and I start appearing in entrepreneur spaces.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of it. And just showing up, I think sometimes is enough. I think one way for certain to go down the wrong road is to be at the bus stop that goes in the direction of the wrong road.
Yeah.
One sure way to go in the right path is to go to a bus stop that goes in the right path.
Yeah.
So I think showing up in spaces where people are discussing enterprise, people are discussing business, people are discussing personal development, people are discussing growth. And that majorly would be even just showing up to a gym. And it doesn't start, or not only, let me even say in today's world, it's not only physical space, but even what you consume. So what social media pages am I on, what YouTube am I watching, what books am I reading, and things of the sort. And that's a space in which people are discussing. Because now somebody would be watching a podcast, and in this space we're discussing entrepreneurship, personal development, self-growth. There's also another space in which they're discussing a party, and it's perfectly okay. I mean,
yeah. Then you say you're gonna talk about it in two stages.
So I think one was just showing up in those spaces, and then I think number two was being an active contributor in those spaces.
Yeah.
So not I think whether right or wrong, saying I think, or saying this is what I feel, or this is what I know, or this is what my intuition is telling me. And the people who'd been in that space for longer, I think, pointing me in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of people who I owe thanks to. A lot of people who helped me when I had nothing but a good attitude and a willingness to learn.
Yeah.
I had absolutely nothing going for me apart from the good attitude and a willingness to learn. So I don't know how to do this, but I'm willing to learn if you'd help me. And sometimes, and especially being a novice, you could be a bit annoying to deal with. So it's like, how don't you know how to do a budget? Like, because as well, early in the entrepreneur days, yes, I was a successful entrepreneur from early, but I never once did a budget. It was those almost like eyeballing. You know how like someone would be cooking and they measure with their hands.
Yeah.
These are the costs. These are the revenues, and somewhere in between, then your profit emerges. What the hell is a profit margin?
Yeah.
But then actively contributing in those spaces and saying, I think this would work. And from there, then developing myself to be a higher caliber of entrepreneur. Yeah.
For that kind of change, what mindset did you also have to get into?
I don't think I'll even overcomplicate it or make it like a really big narrative. I just said, like, I'm actually tired of this shit. Pardon me. Like,
No, it's okay, don't know.
it's like it's a point in which I don't think an external force can impact that change on you.
Yeah.
It has to be something that comes from within.
Yeah.
So I just looked in the mirror and I said, is this what I want for myself, really? And I think part of it was when I was finishing high school, I was top of my class. I was in the best university or one of the best universities in England.
Yeah.
So it was like, what do I want for myself in this life? Is this what I want? No.
Yeah.
And that no is enough for me as a person to say, okay, then something needs to change, and then go out and actively change it. Yeah.
There's someone that's probably listening to this and they're actually also at that point. They're looking at the mirror and they're like, hell no, this is not my life. This cannot be my life. I'm destined for much more. I know I can achieve much more. What are you advising them?
I think, and I'll say it in a crude way, I think, like, have the guts to be successful, or have the guts to do what it takes to be successful. I think there's a lot of, like, in this day and age, suffering is glorified too much. I don't think you should suffer. I don't think you have to go through extended periods of pain. Just wake up and say, I want better for myself. And I think it's a thing in which you need to actively start loving yourself and putting boundaries actively in terms of what you accept and what you don't accept. Because if you put a boundary in terms of what you accept, then your previous life then becomes unacceptable to you. And if it's unacceptable, you'll do something to change it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say love yourself, how's the relationship with yourself been, especially now during that moment of transformation?
I think turning into your own coach or your own biggest cheerleader, there's nothing which is on one end of the spectrum. So it's not being fully strict, it's not being fully easy on yourself, but learning to do what is right in that time. And most of the time, the right thing to do is the opposite to what you feel. Like the reason is our natural instincts are quite primitive. I'm hungry now, so I'll eat.
Yeah.
Is it whether I've been overeating or undereating? They're quite primitive. So following them blindly without applying our rational mind becomes a formula for self-destruction. So taking the time to think, pause, and say, okay, if this was someone I loved or someone outside of me that I loved, what would I ask them to do? And then taking that course of action yourself.
Yeah.
Because you can work yourself into the ground,
Yeah.
or you can not work yourself into what would be the right word to use, into just being sedentary, doing nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, back to the love thing. Have you always loved yourself, and have you been able to develop and keep a good relationship with yourself? Because they say the relationship one has with themselves is probably the most important one.
Yes, I believe at the core of it, I've always loved myself. Have I been always able to label it love and pinpoint it and put a finger on it as love? No. And I think at primitive level as well, we are all designed to love ourselves. It's just that we probably don't take, we have it as a passive emotion. It's not an active thing. I'll actively love myself. I'll actively go to bed early. I'll actively wake up early. I'll actively go to the gym. I'll actively do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things because I love myself.
Yeah.
It's like we'll do it passively. If someone throws a shoe at me, I'll duck. It's because I love myself.
Yes.
Yeah, but not in an active sense. We've not been able to do it.
Now let's bring in that philosophy. So, me previously, I actually have said this in I think I had a very bad relationship with myself.
Yeah.
Lack of love for myself. So, what would you explain that to be now in your philosophy? Because I know you're saying about the passive thing,
Yeah.
but I'd like to actually hear now your
You
perspective on that.
You can love yourself, but the relationship is toxic.
Okay.
It can be a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
And there are different kinds of love that exist. And I think a major thing is how can you love yourself in a healthy way.
Yeah.
I think even at and I don't want to, you might have to put a trigger warning.
Yeah.
But even to a certain extent, and I'll put it in a PG way, some people want to self-destruct to the point of oblivion. Other people actually want to take their lives.
Yeah.
But even the act of taking your life is an act of self-love. It's because you're going through pain and you don't want to experience it anymore. So I love myself. So I'll put myself out of it. I'll be extreme because that's like an extreme example.
No. But
Yeah.
it's making
But
some sense.
it's actually an act of love. It's not an act of I hate myself, so I'm going to. No, it's because I'm in pain and I love myself, so I'll take myself out of this equation. And that's why I believe at any point or through anything, everyone loves themselves at a primitive level.
Oh damn, bro! I think you really opened my eyes to something, because you said that we actually all love ourselves. It's just the thing it's the relationship that could be toxic with one.
Yeah, theory is the same. Practical is different. There's some
Yeah.
people who love themselves in ways that are negative. There's some people who love themselves in ways that are positive.
Yeah.
I think it's just pivoting into what positive ways can I love myself. Okay, I'm in pain. What positive solutions can I seek as solutions? Or what positive actions can I seek as solution?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we still haven't gone back to to the business part, but I'm liking where the conversation is headed.
Yeah.
And you've brought this thing up about suicide.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the suicide rates for men are crazy. I think 8 out of 10 suicides committed in Kenya are by men.
Yeah.
I think it's 7 in the world.
Yeah.
I think the biggest contributor for male deaths between, I think, 25 and something and 40 something is themselves.
Yeah.
What do you think is happening to our species?
I think a major thing, especially as a man, is I think also at a fundamental level. I like to view things from fundamental levels. Is from a fundamental perspective, as a man, you've been made or you've been engineered to achieve certain outcomes. I think what I'll make it akin to is you'll hear aviation professionals saying a plane is better off in the sky than parked on the ground. So if you're a man who's meant to be competent and achieve high things and do difficult things and move the world forward, and you park yourself in a hangar and don't do anything, the cost of maintenance becomes very expensive. So you find yourself doing the wrong things, so either partying too much or getting lost in the wrong life,
Yeah.
as opposed to being in the sky, chasing your dreams, being competent and achieving major things as a man should. And that's where I believe the disconnect is coming in. And it's something which should start probably from boys who are yet to become men. They should be told it's okay to be successful, it's okay to go after your dreams, and it's okay to be a man, especially in a world in which a lot of the sentiment is against that.
Yeah. I like what you said, the thing of it's okay, especially for young men. So what do you think should be done differently about how we raise the young men of these days?
What should be done differently? I'm not an authority on the matter.
Yeah.
I think one day I will do my best to hopefully raise a son or have a family of my own. And I know it's no easy feat.
Yeah.
But I think just giving them the right resources or the right resources, right incentives, right inputs. I think making a comparison to trees or even agriculture.
Yeah.
Once the soil has the right manure and the right nutrients, and eventually then the product that goes, and especially from an early age, the product that comes out is superior.
Yeah.
So if we ingrain in them the right principles, the right values, the right morals, then the right information, it's only but a matter of time in which then we have trees or we have trees that we can shade under.
Of good fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the thing that you said about the good soil.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think now the absent fathers is the bad soil and that's why we're raising the bad trees?
I think it takes a village to raise a child. I don't think I'll actively point fingers at any individuals. But in my heart of heart, I believe is, and previously I think in the African context that was the case.
Yeah.
If I am a man with a boy in my presence, I should, as a man, take it as my responsibility to set a good example for that boy. Whether or not they are my son, they should be treated as such.
Yeah.
And I believe in that way, then we're able to cover for the gaps that then exist. Because there are very many reasons, good and bad, in which, let's say, fathers are absent. There are fathers who die even in war.
Yeah.
Is that to say that their sons can never then be good? I don't think that should be the case.
Yeah.
So I think it's for us as men to hold ourselves accountable in that regard.
So you're saying as men, we need to come together. And whichever boy or girl we see, it's our duty to be involved in that child's life as much as possible.
I think at an individual level, we need to hold ourselves to a higher caliber or higher standard as men, even before coming together. Because you can have a band of idiots masquerading as men. Yeah. So I think first at an individual basis is just to be better as individuals. Then we can be better together, and then society as a whole will be better.
Yeah.
Because just coming together, if we are not better in the first place, doesn't do much for anyone.
Yeah. Okay. how did pain solve that transformation that you went through?
I think pain is critical. Pain is a critical ingredient. I think pain should be ingrained in the soil.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think pain builds tolerance.
Yeah.
It builds your capacity or bandwidth to deal with a multitude of things in a personal capacity or even in a professional capacity. I think a lot of my professional work now has to do with dealing with a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
I think you get more no's than you will ever get yeses.
100%.
And I think dealing with pain in my personal life has helped me understand that it's the way that life goes. I think I usually say, or a phrase I say is hard today, easy tomorrow. So the more pain I go through today, the easier tomorrow will be, even though if the pain between today and tomorrow is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is easier because I went through yesterday. I already know what it is. I've mastered it, I mean.
Yeah. I get exactly what you're saying. Like, it's like going also to the gym.
Yeah.
You know, today the 13th set might be difficult,
Yeah.
but tomorrow it becomes a little bit easier.
Yeah, 100%.
And then eventually over the year, it's probably even the easiest set.
Yeah. That, and I usually say also the mind is a muscle. I think the brain is a muscle. So the more you train that muscle, the more impactful it becomes. Yeah.
So what do you do to train that muscle? Because I hear these days of this, brain rot and this. Yeah. What do you do to train that muscle?
I think one is I read somewhere, the more things you involve yourself in, so more topics you read, the more things you understand, the more neural pathways you open, making yourself have capacity to understand and exercise your brain better, or exercise the application of your brain better. So I think mine is reading widely and also not restricting myself to one particular thing. Then I think also actively resting. I think similar to the gym example you gave, not going to the gym is almost as important as going to the gym. So
Yeah.
knowing when to rest or knowing when to call it a day.
Okay. You've talked about doing multiple things. You're running something that's running multiple ventures. What do you think about the people who say focus on one thing? There's always that argument for focus on this thing. Stop spreading your net too thin.
Yeah. I think what they mean by focus on one thing is you can only really choose one thing to be good at. And for me, on my part, it's just I have a very strong fundamentals on like financials. So the basis of any business is finance, or any entrepreneur gets in business to make a profit, pay themselves some dividends.
Yeah.
So with focusing on those fundamentals, it becomes easy then to throw myself into any space.
Yeah.
However, it is also a thing in which the wider you cast your net, the more opportunities you can bring in. And as an entrepreneur, you're looking for as many opportunities to create value. You're looking for the highest opportunity, or the opportunity with the highest yield.
Yeah.
So you can look for multiple opportunities. Look behind 30 curtains, try 40. And if you look behind curtain 41, and that's where you can build $1 billion business, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are different schools of thought, but mine was also a mathematical approach. There's a reason even venture capital firms, typically we would invest in 10, 15, 20 businesses. One of those businesses can pay for all the 20 investments you made and still give you a 99% return. So it's, on my part, I have a mathematical approach to it. But for everyone, I said, do what's best for you and what works for you. Yeah.
I think you're right, because I think I was talking to my friend the other day who works in a venture capitalist firm, and he was like, yeah, bro, when we're investing, we're looking at 20 companies. We know the 20 might fail, but we know 5 we could get right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's those 5 that we're looking to, to get right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now back to your company, KS Africa Group, what inspired that?
Yeah.
What's the mission behind that, and what can we expect in this year and in the next couple of years?
For KS Group Africa, I had a vision a while ago, actually from about 2018. And that vision was a vision for a prosperous Africa. And I always knew I'd do this through different entities, not under one business. And I wanted to be a driver of that change. My name being Khalhani Sichangi, it was Khalhani Sichangi Group, Africa. And and you said, I think, or we said earlier, names are very critical.
Yeah.
So I made myself a logo of the map of Africa. The name was KAL Group Africa, and the slogan actually up below was "Be inspired by change." And that change, I believe, was I believe innovation is a major driver of enterprise or entrepreneurial success. And I wanted to be the driver of innovation and the driver of entrepreneurial growth in Africa. And that's the mission which I set off since then, or I embarked on.
Yeah.
And this KAL Group Africa has grown beyond me or past me and impacted thousands of people's lives.
Yeah.
And my major belief or my major sentiment at the bottom of my heart is that there will be multi-sector growth across the African business landscape.
Yeah.
And for me, I want to be a positive participant in all of those spaces. And that's why I fashioned it as a group.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, as a young man managing all these things, you know, do you ever go through inner doubt or imposter syndrome?
I think my imposter syndrome was cured once I entered the room. I think the biggest thing about imposter syndrome, or the biggest thing about the imposter syndrome that used to be there, was I was looking from outside of the club, not necessarily in. But similar to like being frozen outside a club, you never really know what's going on inside. You just think these people in this party must be so superior to me.
Yeah.
It's the reason why I'm frozen. But once you enter the club, you're like, yo, everyone here is just exactly like me.
Yeah.
Dress like me, talk like me, walk like me. Some are geniuses, some are idiots, but humans just like me, and that cured it. So I don't think I have much of imposter syndrome. I don't have much doubt in myself. I may doubt some plans, I may doubt some strategies, and even in the office up until today, we have something which is disagree and commit. I can disagree with you and your opinion, but also on my part, my disagreement is an opinion; it's not a fact. Let's take it to the market and test it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to look at it. And the fact that you brought disagreement and everything, how has the success or the definition of success changed for you over time? Especially because at the start you told us you were happy to have made more than your teacher in 1 month, and then yours was not constant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how's your definition of success changed over time?
I think a major thing that was ingrained in me from my young age is leave somewhere better than you found it. And I think that's for me, I have about two definitions of success. So one, did I leave the world better than I found it?
Yeah.
And two, did I do my best? I think for me, even if I'm successful, but I didn't push myself to the limit, or I didn't explore the upper bound, or I didn't exhaust the full capacity of whatever it is I'm putting myself into, so I don't truly count it as a success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you know, as we come to the kick it section, question one is, what do you think is one thing you wish every young African entrepreneur understood early on?
I think information is your friend. I wish African entrepreneurs understood information is their friend. I think the reason I say that is the more educated we can become on how businesses can be structured and how we can be participants in the enterprise space, the better for us. I think major thing is also focusing or being deeply enthralled in enterprise for reasons outside of ourselves. I think entrepreneurship is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not to buy the latest Range Rover scheme. It's not to buy a Rolex scheme. And I think that's how it has been painted out. Actually, I believe in my heart an easier way to achieve majority of those things is just to be employed and go to school, study, get a PhD and be employed. You'll have all of those things faster than... Like, the fastest way to become a millionaire is have a billion and start a business.
Yeah.
So I think, one, avoid the common narratives that you find that enterprise is an easy way out. And two, take it seriously. And three, part of taking it seriously is being as informed as possible as to what it takes, what it involves, what it includes, and how these things work in theory and in practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's one book or podcast you think every entrepreneur should read or listen to?
That's a tough one. One.
Okay, what do you suggest? Like maybe there's an entrepreneur listening to this. What resources would you suggest?
Quite a few. I think there's a book that I give as a gift quite frequently. It's called What the CEO Wants You to Know.
Oh.
I think helps you understand the fundamentals of business that I keep on referencing. How Safaricom is not much different from your smoky vendor.
Yeah.
I think another great book is Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by 50 Cent. That I think translated for me, especially as a young black man, what being an entrepreneur in this life could look like. I think another great book is Stephen Bartlett's book, Diary of a CEO.
Yeah.
I think, what other book would I probably recommend? There's E-Myth Enterprise, my colleague Garba.
Yeah.
There's probably this would be the last one that that I give. It probably has to be a good one. What other book is really good? There's a book, Business Model Innovation. That's a bit more theory, like it's on the business theory side. It's not an asset development thing or anything.
Yeah.
It's like a practical handbook.
Yeah.
It's called Business Model Innovation.
Okay.
Yeah. Or Business Model Generation. Yeah.
Business model generation.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from failure?
I think the biggest lesson I've learned from failure is one, humility, and two, I think it has given me, I don't know how I'd say taught, it has given me the courage to constantly try again. And sometimes you just wake up and try again.
Okay. What's one habit you had to kill in your previous life to be the person you are today?
I think I had a habit of negotiating with myself. I meant to do something in 30 minutes. 30 minutes pass, I'll be like, okay, let me give myself 45. I think a habit that definitely had to go is negotiating with myself.
Yeah.
Then that spills over even into other facets of my life, because once I stop negotiating with myself, I also become a more credible and reliable person to you, to everyone in my business, to everyone around me.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, I know you love all your ventures. Yeah. But if you had to keep one, which one would you keep and why?
I'll cheat and I'll say the venture capital business.
Yeah.
Because it allows me to participate in any space that I want to. I can be an active investor in any business.
Yeah.
So I'd keep my venture capital business, which I think is I've cheated in answering your question.
Yeah.
But all my business, I think all my businesses have a part of my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. But don't get attached. Don't be like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. As we wrap this up, I don't know if you had any final words for the camera.
Mine is to thank you for having me. Great initiative, and just to kick it is a blessing. I think the stories of African enterprise are important. The story of Africans are important. You should get out there and tell them more. And for the work that you're doing, I think thank you in that regard.
Yeah.
Other than that, every day above ground is a blessing, and I think that's a message you'd endorse as well.
Yeah.
So take it a day at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bro, I really like to thank you for, gracing this invite. I'm really inspired and motivated by the work you do and you've done even at such a young age, continue inspiring and motivating a lot more people, even you now. Go out there, tell your story a lot more, There's definitely people that will listen to this and continue listening to your story that will definitely be inspired. And I know even us, as we grow and as you grow, we will have you again and we'll be like, oh, damn, that was like 2-3 years ago we did this.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Definitely, and thanks for having me as well.
All right.
Yeah.
For those of you tuning in from home, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Just to Kick It is a Blessing podcast. Remember that no matter where you are, no matter what you go through, Just to Kick It is truly a blessing. Goodbye and see you next week.
For the boomer, yeah, singing no weapon forming against me shall prosper.